Alrighty, well, welcome everyone to the Public Safety Subcommittee. We're starting off with calling this meeting to order. Is there any cards from the public? No cards from the public. So, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Alrighty, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We're on item number 2.
I move approval.
Alrighty.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We have some information only and discussion, items 3 through 6.
Do you want to hear 4?
Anybody needs to pull any of those out for more information?
No.
Alrighty, so then we're back on to item number 7. I don't think. Right, false alarm. All right. So we would like to have our false alarm. Sorry about that. Welcome, Chief.
Good morning, Chairman Nowakowski and members of the subcommittee. With me today is Jessica Rothschild, who I believe many of you know. She briefly left the police department to come here to City Hall, and we were fortunate enough to get her back. She oversees our code enforcement unit, and she's the foremost expert on this item, so I'm going to turn it over to Jessica for this presentation.
Good morning, Chairman Nowakowski, members of the subcommittee. I'm going to give you an overview of the city's alarm program. The City of Phoenix Alarm Ordinance dates back to 1977. In its current language, it requires that every alarm subscriber in the City of Phoenix, whether they have a burglar or a fire alarm, obtain and maintain a permit. And this is an annual fee of $17. If a business or homeowner incurs false alarms, more than 2 in a 365-day period, they are subject to an assessment. The fees are $96 for 2 or more false burglar alarms and $105 for more than 2 false fire alarms. When officers respond to an alarm call, they are categorized in a priority 1 or a priority 2. Priority 1 is a silent panic alarm or an alarm combined with a camera visual. Priority 2 is just an audible alarm activation. So if you drive by a business or a residence and you hear the audible alarm, that would be considered a priority 2. When a home or a when a home or a business incurs a false alarm, this is the process that occurs. The first false alarm is free, there's no charge. They simply receive a letter of warning. If they receive a second within the 365-day period, they are subject to the $96 assessment fee. The code states that both subscribers and alarm companies are jointly responsible, so they have the option to either pay the fee, they can attend a false alarm prevention class and have the fee waived, or they can appeal the false alarm. And the first level appeal is conducted in-house with false alarm staff. And the second level appeal is conducted by the city auditor's office. They have that option if they don't agree with the first appeal. In addition, if an alarm system incurs 10 or more false alarms in a 365-day period, the code states that the subscriber is subject to an alarm inspection that's required. And the homeowner or the business owner is responsible for the $200 fee. The reason for the inspection is to identify equipment malfunctions, to make the alarm system more reliable, and to bring parties into compliance. This slide shows some totals that we pulled from the system, and to date, for the current year, we have 160,000 permits on file. And beneath that is a breakdown of how many are in lawful status, which is the 64,000 number, the 77,000 expired, and the 18,610 unlawful. And then the table to the right shows you revenue totals for the fiscal year 18-19 with the total number on top, and then a breakdown of the fees, what we have collected for false alarms, for permits, and for the prevention class, the no permit fees, and inspections.
Already, is there any questions? So I was the person that actually asked to put this on the agenda. Um, Some other cities around the Maricopa County surprised, and I think outside of the county would be Tucson, is actually going into a different type of system called Verify, I think it is, or so. I'm not really familiar with that process, but I was just wondering, have we looked into that? Because it seems like we would take, we're taking officers off the streets to go to these false alarms, and looks like there's quite a few false alarms that we have out there. So I was wondering if we can look at other best practices throughout the state of Arizona. That one thing I really don't understand what the Verify is, and can you kind of explain that to me?
Yes, Chairman Nowakowski, members of the subcommittee. In 2010, the City of Phoenix actually revised its ordinance, and we have a two-step verification.
Okay.
When an alarm activation is received, the alarm company is required to call the residence or the location. In addition to that, they need to call a secondary number. And then most recently, in 2017, we implemented the ASAP to PSAP to further aid in the reduction of police response to alarm calls. What you are describing as far as the verified response, I do have information that I can come back with regarding other agencies, both in-state and out-of-state.
What I'd like to see is maybe with that information you bring back to us, if that would help us put more officers on the street instead of taking them off, and how much time or resources are spent on false alarms, right? And if the, I know it sounds like a high number, it's a little over $1 million on false alarm revenue, but do we recoup all that staff time and officers going to calls with that million, or if it's costing the city of Phoenix more than that? And if you can look into what Tucson and maybe Surprise is doing.
Okay.
And I know that there's a lot of technology. I mean, we're even encouraging our block watch individuals to have those ring phones. I mean, those ring door, what do you call it? Door chimes to doorbells to basically record people, and now you can actually verify if your house is getting broken into or not.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
On the ones you were just talking about, I'll refer to them as ring because I'm not very knowledgeable about them. But how does someone who doesn't have that system verify that it's, if they're not home and they don't have any neighbors, verify that it's not valid if your alarm goes off?
If I understand the question, how does somebody who does not have a ring system,
Right, just the regular system.
if they pay for a company to monitor their alarm, then it would go through the two-step verification process.
Okay, but they call me and they say, it went off? Is it legit? Well, I don't know, I'm here. So I
Correct.
just usually say, yeah. I mean, or one, if I know my grandson hasn't entered and forgot to shut it off, I don't know what else to do.
They are required to contact the residents and then the secondary number, and if there is no success in verifying whether it's a false alarm or a valid alarm, then they would ask police to respond.
Okay, but if it was switched to the other system, I mean, do you have access to, I guess I don't understand the technology behind it. Is it because you would verify on your phone, if you had it, that there was actually somebody breaking in?
You know, the way I was explaining, maybe Chief, you can help me out, is that there's other systems out there. So individuals that don't have technology or Wi-Fi or that they actually have a system, alarm system, where somebody goes out there from the alarm system and checks if there is any broken doors or doors open,
Oh,
broken
from-
windows and stuff like that.
from the
And,
alarm
and then the other thing is, with the technology, with the doorbells, and then with all the cameras and stuff that people are able to view within the house and outside the house. And then even neighbors nowadays, if we have permission to use other cameras that your neighbor might have shining or looking over your
Okay.
household and stuff like that, that might be another way. So those are some of the things that I was hearing from other cities, that they're coming up with creative ways because of the lack of resources for our police,
Yeah.
and pulling police off the street to these false alarms are really costly for the city. So I'm not sure if those examples are right or not.
Well, Chairman Olkowski, members of the subcommittee, and Councilman Williams, maybe to build on your question, I have some numbers. So what Jessica showed you was from FY 18-19. So using that same time frame, during that fiscal year, we, the Phoenix Police Department, dispatched on 48,256 alarm calls. 48,000. Of those, 986 resulted in the determination of a crime. So if you just look at the numbers, you say, well, that's a small number. But any crime to any person is very impactful to that individual. And what concerns us, what concerns me, let me say it this way, about having that secondary verification, cameras. I have a system that has all of those layers, but not everybody does. If there was an activation, say a glass break, a window was opened, a back door, and there wasn't anything secondary, God forbid there's a suspect who entered the home and now is holding homeowners or residents against their will. I want to make sure that, from my mind, as a Phoenix resident, as a Phoenix native, and as a Phoenix police officer, that we would respond, ensure that everyone is okay. Then we can transition to that report phase. So while it is a low number, and I appreciate the fact you're always looking out for the department, my concern would be that we not respond on even one call that actually ended up being valid.
Any other questions?
I have one. So I totally, with you on that, right? Making sure that we respond. So I don't know, I mean, I haven't looked into this, but is there a way where we can see, I know how important it is to have our police officers out in the streets. Is it possible to maybe figure out a way where we could have like our CAOs or different people looking into these calls, right? That we feel that, because I get it, that we have to respond to all of them, but maybe having, a second layer, different type of person looking into these calls as well, right? To making sure that we keep our police officers out in the streets, but like you said, making sure that we are also responding to those calls. And when I first bought my house got broken into, and I get it. I understand how important that is, to having someone respond to those calls.
So Chairman Olkowski, Councilman Guardado, there's always opportunities for improvement in different dispatch methods that we can look at. Bottom line, I just want to make sure that when that alarm goes off and we don't get a verification that all is clear, that we send somebody to check and make sure that everything is okay. But there's different ways that we can look at accomplishing that.
Okay.
So Chief, maybe what we can do in the future is maybe look at the best practices of other cities using this verification process, and see if there's ways for us to use it here in the city of Phoenix. Maybe we can look at maybe some of the alarm companies and maybe talk to their some of their concerns or some of their frustrations, and maybe we can figure out maybe a happy medium or so, making sure that people are safe and that we keep the men and women in uniforms on the streets.
We'll do just
All
that.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we're on item number, does anybody want to have a report on the monsoons? Recap?
You already have it.
All righty. Then we'll go to item number 6. Anybody wants number 6? The stand down. So I think the monsoons, we're actually going to skip the monsoons. Good news is that we really didn't have a big monsoon season this year. And stand down, does any, all right.
Good morning, Chairman Nowakowski, members of the subcommittee. My name is Gary Kula, Director of the Public Defender's Office, and I'm joined today by Mr. Melvin Morris.
Good morning, council members. My name is Melvin Morris. I am the City of Phoenix Municipal Court's Veterans Court Coordinator.
And we are here today to talk about the Maricopa County Veterans Stand Down. It started as the City of Phoenix Stand Down, and it's going to be held next year, January 23rd through 24th. The stand down actually had its origins in the 1980s. One of our current judges, Judge Jackson, actually presided over a stand down when we had it in tents, we had it in shelters, and it was just to provide legal services to the community. In about 1992, it went from being a community legal service event to being a veteran stand down. And you can see it started with the Phoenix Municipal Court. It started with, you know, a handful of volunteers from the court, and we had about 40 veterans show up at the event. You can see in 2019, it's grown to an event where we had over 1,800 veterans appearing. And this has become Arizona's largest outreach event targeting veterans who are either homeless or at risk of being homeless. And so in addition to the 1,800 veterans who attended, we had over 1,200 volunteers, including folks from the Human Services Department and also Sal Obregon, who helped us coordinate the community service for all of the veterans who are looking to pay off their fines or finish off on some of the obligations they had to the court. We briefly wanted to go through some of the interesting demographics of the individuals who showed up at the stand down, and Mr. Morris will discuss those.
Well,
Okay.
I can get started.
Sure.
Our participants in last year's stand
Good. Hey, Corey.
down were overwhelmingly male. At 86%, we had 13%. Oh, thank you. 13% of our participants were female. That's an increase of 67% over last year. We attribute that to, we have now dedicated entrances for female veterans and dedicated services.
You know, one of the difficulties we had with the stand down for many years is that we couldn't get female veterans to appear. It was just dominantly male veterans, and because of the fears, some of the situations that they were put in while they were in the military, it made them very reluctant to appear in an event like this where it was all male. So the stand down decided that they should dedicate an entire portion of the Memorial Coliseum to female veterans so that we could provide unique services to them, such as child care, such as counseling, such as legal assistance, employment. So it's been a wonderful development, and it's been an increase of over, I think it was 87% in the number of female veterans who are appearing.
As far as the housing status of our veterans, overwhelmingly 74% of them are what the VA classifies as at risk. At risk is families or individuals who are unemployed, underemployed, living with family members or with friends. And we had 15% of our participants lived on the streets or in shelters. Now, last November was the annual outreach count. We had 893 homeless veterans that we reached on the street. So we saw 284, so we reached approximately a third of those with the stand down last year. Overwhelmingly, the Army represents most of our participants at 47%. the discharge status. 89% of our veterans have honorable discharges, which is the gold standard for the VA as far as benefits, housing, health care. However, the remaining veterans are what we call the forgotten veterans, those with other than honorable bad conduct or dishonorable discharges, which are a barrier to benefits. And these people are normally forgotten because they're not eligible for any of the services at the VA, but they're eligible for all the services at the stand down that we offer.
This is a difficult target area for the stand down, because if you're eligible for VA benefits, there's all these wonderful things that you can receive in the way of services and in the way of assistance. But for those who have other levels of discharge other than honorable, bad conduct, dishonorable, I mean, they're pretty much left on their own. And those are the individuals that we try to focus on at the stand down, and sometimes some of the events we do outside the stand down, because they don't have anywhere to turn for services, they don't have the assistance, and it's that much harder for those individuals to make the transition back into being a contributing member of society. And that's, and especially in our court, in the Veterans Court that Mr. Morris oversees, that's one set of individuals that we go out of our way to do everything we can, because we know if we don't help them, if we don't provide them with some services, once they get out on the streets, there's not a lot of other places that will provide them with help.
How many people are you talking about approximately that fall in that category at a stand down?
Let's see, we had 122 had bad conduct discharges, 69 had other than honorable, and about 9% with the other did not disclose our general under other than honorable.
And maybe you're going to show it in a future slide. What kind of services can you offer?
We will be showing that in
Okay.
a future slide. And actually, you know, that's one of the difficult areas as far as the stand out, because if you have someone who has an honorable discharge, they're proud to be there, they're happy to be there. You know, they want to be around their colleagues. And, you know, if you have someone who's in a situation where it was a dishonorable discharge or a bad conduct discharge, it's harder for them to be with their colleagues. And so it's a difficult task getting them to the stand down, which is why we make this special effort outside of the stand down to help these individuals.
Here's a slide of the racial breakdown of the stand down last year. Over half our participants were white, and as you can see, it's diversely for the other 50%. The age breakdown. The lion's share of our participants were in the ages of 51 through 60, which is pretty significant because these people served in the armed forces many years ago, and they're still struggling with homelessness, some of them with substance abuse issues and mental health issues. It's also interesting that the 18 to 30% group, who are the young veterans from OEF, OIF, that's Iraq and Afghanistan, are such a low number because the services and the VAs have made great strides in helping these veterans transition to civilian life.
And this is another one of those troubling slides. When you look at the breakdown, you know, here we have over 60% of the veterans who are there at the stand down to receive assistance, to receive services, to receive some type of relief from either being on the street or being in at-risk housing. 60% are over 50 years old. So it's a number of individuals who completed their military service years, if not decades ago, and they're still struggling to make that transition back into society.
I'm sorry, just one question. What does D&D stand for?
Did not disclose.
And you'll also notice that we had two that were over 90 years old appearing at the stand down, which it's very cool because so many of the younger service members, I mean, they sought them out and they could see someone who had been a veteran for so many years, and it was very heartwarming to see the interaction between some of the younger veterans and the older veterans. One of the new additions to the stand down the last couple of years is through AZ Mission of Mercy Dental Services. This is another one of those heartwarming areas where they have a full dental office at the stand down. They use the Upper Coliseum. They do dental cleanings, they do crowns, they do cavities, they do root canals. And actually, one of the things they do is they have an area where if a veteran walks in and they can see that they're beyond the point where, you know, some type of ordinary dental work would help, they provide them with a full set of dentures. And that's actually the picture on the right of that gentleman, where someone might walk in with, you know, a handful of functioning teeth, and by the end of the two days, you know, their hands are moved away from their mouth, they're smiling. It's an incredible part of the stand down to see folks that are happy with a renewed sense of confidence, knowing that they'll be able to go out and maybe get a job, maybe smile, which is, it's a wonderful part of it. Now, my favorite part of the stand down is courts and legal services. So the legal services are rather exhaustive as far as what services and which courts are available. We have Phoenix is there. We have 12 other Valley Municipal Courts. We have 24 Justice Courts, Maricopa County Superior Court. And as you'll see on the right, we had a retired police officer, John Stevens. He was also in the Marine Corps. He put together that directional sign, the mileage sign, to help the veterans navigate the different courts. And it's something that, you know, is like one of the important features of the stand down. Every year people come. Alberto's Bar, you see it third from the bottom. That's probably the one we get the most questions about. The State Bar has attorneys at the stand down, and Alberto Rodriguez coordinates that. So he told us one year, and so the sign said State Bar, but he told us one year he was bringing his supervisors and the administrators from the State Bar. So we changed it from State Bar to Alberto's Bar just for them, and they appreciated that. We also have, throughout the stand down, we have courtrooms that are fully operational. So at any given time during the stand down, we have between 8 and 12 courtrooms with judges, court staff, prosecutors, defenders, probation officers, hearing cases that the veterans bring with them to the stand down. Also, we have VJOs there.
VJOs are Veterans Justice Outreach Officers. They're a special group of social workers that the VA assigns to the courts specifically to help veterans who enter the criminal justice system in obtaining health care, mental health care, substance abuse treatment, benefits.
Okay. So last year we saw 810 veterans in the courts and legal services area, which is great, because we used to see about 1,200. But between the efforts of the veterans courts in the different jurisdictions and between some of the other services that we provide to veterans throughout the year, that number is down to 810. We help them, the types of cases, we help them with misdemeanors and felonies. We help them with criminal and traffic cases, warrants, unpaid fines, probation, and even out-of-state cases. Every year we have between 200 and 300 veterans that come in and say, I have a case in Colorado or Chicago or New York. Of course, we don't have the resources to deal with them here, but we have a law firm, Snell and Wilmer. Craig Logston, one of the senior attorneys with that law firm, he brings anywhere from a dozen to 24 attorneys to the stand down every year. And when someone says, I have a case out of Nashville, they're on the phone calling colleagues in different cities across the nation saying, I have a veteran here, I need you to help them at no charge. And they help hundreds of those veterans get in contact with attorneys that help them resolve their cases back in their home court, back in the out-of-state court. We also provide legal services on civil matters at the stand down. The State Bar, Community Legal Services, ASU Law School. As you can see from the list, just about any type of case that a veteran walks in with, we can help them out. There are also a number of partners at the stand down. You can see the list is rather exhaustive. MVD's been one of our most important partners. They have been critical in helping so many veterans get back on their feet, by letting them apply either for a state ID or to try to get their driver's license back. And that is one of the most rewarding areas of the stand down, because we help dozens, if not hundreds, of individuals get their driver's licenses back. We help them do that by resolving their cases in the courts and then taking them over to MVD and get their license back. It's truly a hugs and tears type event where a lot of individuals, their lives are changed. They're once again able to drive. They're able to not worry about a fine that they owe to court. And they're able to, find a place to live. They're able to find a job. So it's a very important event in the lives of veterans. The City of Phoenix has played a leadership role. The City of Phoenix has been involved in the executive committee of the stand down. We've been organizing the courts and legal services aspect of the stand down for several decades now. And also the presence of the city council members at the stand down has been important to the event. And it's important that these veterans see that the elected officials, the leadership of the city, support them and recognize them for the sacrifice that they made for their country. And we hope that that's a tradition that continues. So the stand down is next January 23rd and 24th. It's a special day to recognize veterans. It's kind of a day of hope, a day of tears, a day of hugs, and a day of thanking them for their service to our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I just want to say that thank you so much. Just to hear the numbers, 11% of individuals that were discharged are for bad conduct, they left the military. Those 11% are men and women that put their lives on the line for us, so we have all these rights, and we're able to operate the way we do operate, and even have a council like we have here. It's great to see that they're getting services, that there's somebody that's reaching out to help those individuals that sometimes feel that they're out of the system and that there's no help, that you're bringing those resources to them. And just to have over 800 veterans with legal services and going into a courtroom and getting back their driver's license, that's something big. A lot of people don't realize that without a car, it's hard to get to work, and reinstalling all those rights back to those veterans, that's something really big. And it's just amazing that 60% of the individuals that go to the stand down are over 50 years of age. There's a lot of need out there, and like you were saying, the new veterans are being given all the resources, and it's the older veterans that are out there, a lot of them that it's amazing to hear that a lot of them are homeless, and that we still have over 200 homeless veterans that we know of that are out there on the streets attending to stand down. So I just really want to thank you. I think it's more than just a service that we're providing. It's God sent for a lot of these individuals to save their lives and bring them back to stable grounds and to give them hope in life, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
it's something that we should all feel very proud that we have a day like this. So if you're watching, or if you know of a veteran or a family member that happens to be a veteran and is frustrated with the system, this is a day that you can have all the resources in one place to really work this out. It was amazing this Saturday. I went to a Marine Raiders fundraising event, and just to see the testimonies from some of their keynote speakers, it was just amazing that individuals that have lost their limbs, and they're still giving back, even though they're not in the Marines anymore, but they're still being role models for individuals, showing that you can do it. Even if you lost an arm or a leg, that you can still be a productive citizen and giving back and being role models for others. So once again, thank you on behalf of this subcommittee and my colleagues, and thanks for everything you do.
Thank you. Thank you.
With that, we're on the last item, number 7. It's all yours.
Good morning, Chairman Noakowski and members of the subcommittee. My name is Assistant Chief Tim Kreis with the Fire Department. I have with me, oh, can you guys hear me? Okay. Okay, sorry about that. I have with me Deputy Chief Mike Molitor with the Fire Prevention Section and Fire Marshal John Mertens. We're here to present to you on the Fire Life Safety Systems Inspection, Testing, and Maintenance Program. And as the experts and leaders of the Fire Prevention Section for the City of Phoenix, I'll turn it over to Chief Molitor for the presentation.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, as Chief Kreis said, my name is Michael Molitor, and I'm the Deputy Chief over Fire Prevention. I'm here today to present the committee with a modern IT solution for the fire department. This is a solution, it's an electronic inspection, tracking system for our inspection, testing, and maintenance program within the city. The goal of fire prevention is proactively protect the community through inspection, testing, and maintenance. And these are requirements that are in the fire code for buildings for their fire and life safety systems. And what I mean by that, is I do apologize for that. Yeah, I must have sat on it. And so what I mean by fire and life safety systems, that would be sprinkler systems, fire alarms, smoke control, smoke evacuation systems. So all the things that in a building that would keep our occupants safe and mitigate a fire. Currently, the fire department has an inspection, testing, and maintenance process that's very challenging and labor intensive. And let me explain how that works. So these systems are required to be inspected by a third-party contractor. The third-party contractor comes in and would inspect a sprinkler system, and then they would send that report to the fire department, whether it's a deficient system or a system that's compliant. And when they send that to the fire department, it comes in several different ways. It comes in either by mail, by email, by fax, sometimes certified mail, and they even drop it off in person. With the city having approximately 36,000 commercial buildings and roughly 80,000 systems, that's a lot of paperwork. That's a lot of stuff. And also, because of this, we can't always ensure that all contractors are complying and are always bringing that paperwork to us or giving us those reports. So managing this process is very labor intensive, it's very inconsistent, and there's always a chance for human error. So what we're proposing today is a way to fix that, a way to solve that problem. As I said in a previous slide, our process is very challenging, and we've identified gaps, and these gaps can have consequences. So as we've seen throughout the country, when these systems don't operate or function properly because they're not properly maintained, there can be a tragic loss of life and or property. And some examples of that would be the Ghost Ship fire in Oakland, where a system was out of compliance and it resulted in 36 deaths. The other would be the Station nightclub fire, which resulted in 100 deaths and over 200 injuries. Sorry. So what we're proposing is a modern IT solution to have a single source point of information to come in. It'll enhance our service delivery and it'll enhance fire code compliance. This technology is unprecedented, and what I mean by that is that as we get buildings into our system and as we know the buildings that are in the city of Phoenix, it will help us reach realistically almost 100% compliance, because now we can proactively reach out and say, hey, you need to inspect your building, you need to have your systems inspected. What do we expect if we implement this system? Currently, the fire department receives about 2,000 deficiency reports per year. With this system in place, we expect we could see up to 16,000 deficiency reports a year. In other words, as more inspections are conducted, we expect that we will receive the reports on more deficiencies. And that sounds, I don't want to say bad, but it's actually a good thing, because what it allows us to do is be proactive and know what's happening and respond to fix these problems. And an example of this, the city of Los Angeles reported a 45% compliance increase just in the first 6 months alone of implementing this system. So it works. As I said in the previous slide, if we saw 16,000 deficiency reports, it would take us about roughly 82 employees and cost about $14 million to manage that workload. With us being able to leverage this technology, we feel we can manage these deficiencies with 9 employees and a net cost of about $47,000. And that's on the front end just to get this program started. As the program continues on, we believe it will be a zero-cost program to the city of Phoenix. As you can see, this system is very widely used and widely recognized. Nationally, large cities like Los Angeles, Chicago, Austin have implemented this system, and it's functioning well for them. And then regionally, Scottsdale, Avondale, Surprise have implemented this process. This system's becoming the standard throughout the country because it works. It accomplishes what we need it to. So what are the financial impacts to the city of Phoenix? So as I said earlier, these systems need to be inspected to be either found incompliant or deficient. Either way, the third-party inspector is going to give those reports to the fire department. Well, they're actually going to submit these reports to this technology system, and when they do, there's a charge for that, and it's a $30 fee. As a portion of this fee goes to the technology solution company, and a portion of that fee comes to the fire department. The fee that comes to, I should say, the city of Phoenix, not the fire department. The fee that comes to the city of Phoenix is what we're going to use to fund the positions needed to manage the work. And again, this will become virtually zero cost to the city as we move forward. As you can see, these are the fees associated with other large or major jurisdictions. When you look at the large cities like Chicago, the fire department tried to choose a fee that was fair and consistent and would become cost neutral to the city. We're right in line with what other departments, other jurisdictions are charging, and really we're below what a lot of other major jurisdictions are charging for this system. It's important to note that this fee has been posted for public comment per state law, and we've received zero comments back on it. So this system has national support. The fire department's reached out to groups like BOMA, Fire Safety Advisory Board, our own group, and then AZ Bar Association to get input on what they thought of the system and what they thought of the costs. They were all actually very happy. They believe that it will reduce costs for building owners because they're going to be maintaining the system, so they won't have large costs when the systems have major problems. This system has been servicing many jurisdictions. As you can see, there's over 700,000 premises being tracked and over 10,000 users. That just shows the ability of the system, how much technology or how much information it can manage. I think in closing, in summary, this is a proven progressive IT solution. It's going to maximize our staff resources. It's going to provide efficiency through technology. It will end with the city being safer. And be virtually zero cost to the city of Phoenix. The department would like to implement this with your guys' approval. We would look to implement this in January of 2020.
Any comments? Councilmember?
Yes. Well, thank you so much for the presentation. I mean, as I think one of our themes here lately has been how can we be more cost efficient? How can we be safer? Seeing the numbers, I see how important it is. And seeing, how do we keep our residents safe? How do we keep businesses out of trouble, right? And how do we, and then how do we make, I don't know if this is the right word, the job easier, but at least safer for our firefighters. I think that's incredibly important. So I am very supportive of this. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Williams?
Thank you. I had a couple questions on implementation. Are the 9 positions 9 new positions?
Councilwoman Williams, yes, ma'am. They would be 9 new positions.
So the ones that are currently assigned to this area are the ones that would go out and check the deficiencies? Is that what you're telling us?
So currently, the reports that are coming in, we do have inspectors that follow up. We do follow up with these current deficiencies. As I'd said, as we implement when we implement this system, or as we implement this system, we expect those numbers to go up. And it's surely a matter of not all of our contractors are participating in the program as they should be. And so this system actually drives those contractors to participate in the program, which as we see them participating, as we receive those numbers, those deficiency reports, it's going to create more work, and we would need the staff to manage that work.
Can you explain contractors to me?
Yes, ma'am. So a third-party contractor would be like a fire alarm company or a sprinkler company, people in industry that do that type of work. So for example, if a sprinkler system needs to be inspected, the building owner would contact their sprinkler contractor to come out and do the inspection on that sprinkler system. And then depending on how that inspection turns out, is it compliant or is it deficient, they would report that to the fire department through this new system, this technology system. And then the fire department would see that report, and we would determine if there's a deficiency, what level of, and when I say deficiency, it's important to understand that it doesn't mean that it's a catastrophic failure of the system, that it's not working. There's different levels of problems or issues that can be going on with the system. So once we see that, then we need the staff to be able to follow up to ensure it's being corrected.
So that remains as is, basically. And the 9 new positions would be to just work with this system. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am. So then all deficiency reports would fall under this new program. So that would actually free up our inspectors to be able to, the inspectors that are currently managing this, to go out and proactively do more different inspections.
Okay.
So we want to create a unit within fire prevention that this is what they do.
And it just seems to me 36,000, the size of Phoenix, is low.
That is probably a low number. We're guesstimating based on the information we can gather that we have. I would agree that I think those numbers are probably low. We would think it would be higher.
Is there any coordination between fire and planning and development so that when you know when the new buildings are going up, you're
Yes.
contacted?
Yes, Councilwoman Williams, we are currently working with Planning Development, Water Department, all the different departments within the city to gather that data, that information, to know exactly what we're dealing with exactly.
Oh, I'm very supportive of this. I wish we'd had a long time ago, but thank you for researching and bringing it to us.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I would like to make a motion to approve item number 7.
Alrighty, we have a motion and a second, and we'll have some discussion. I have a question. Can you go back to that slide where it talks about traditional and what's proposed solutions? So going back to what Councilmember Williams was talking about, so we have 82 on the traditional solution, right? Employees that are out there, and we have 64 fire prevention specialists, and then we, and the list goes down. And over here with proposed solution, it goes down to 9. So would that be 9 additional to the 82, which is about 91, or that's cutting it down to 9, and what happens to the 82 employees?
Chairman Nowakowski, what this slide is showing is that with the deficiencies that we think will be generated with the system, if we kept the same process that we have, it would take 82 employees to manage that amount of work. What the other slide is showing is when we leverage the technology, we can do that same work with 9 employees. And the breakdown of that 9 employees would be 1 supervisor, 7 inspectors, and a data control specialist.
So we're basically just doing stuff smarter than harder,
Yes, sir.
right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, because that was a little confusing.
I just
Not-
want you to know, Councilman Nowakowski, I do not have 82 inspectors. I would love to have 82 inspectors.
Well, this is your day, Ed. Well, no, thank you so much, and I just really want to thank you all for looking at alternative ways to cutting costs and using technology to its fullest to really save lives, because I know that there's new technology out there where it's not just a siren or a bell, but there's actually voice activated in large malls and nightclubs and all that, where it tells people what to do. And so even that new technology is great to see out there. and also for you all being proactive. I know that you've been working really close with planning and zoning department, and we have some of these high rises that are coming into downtown, and that you all are meeting with the developers ahead of time, and even traveling out of state with us to meet with those potential projects. And I think that really helps out a lot as the city of Phoenix, that we're showing that we want these corporations and businesses to come and make Phoenix their home, and at the same time that we're going to be here to help them through our fire marshals to our building and zoning individuals. So thank you for being a part of this, what I call the Team Phoenix approach. Any others? With all that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It passes. Thank you so much. So our next would be call to the public, seeing that there's no cards. Any future agenda items that my colleagues might have?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
our November agenda is packed.
Oh, wow.
We have 5 judicial reappointments to make. We're going to have a presentation on vaping.
Okay.
We have a photo light enforcement contract to approve. There's also a Phoenix Police Academy update. There have been some significant changes and improvements made at the academy under the leadership of Commander Jen LaRock. Commander LaRock is retiring in December, and this would give us an opportunity to hear what she has been able to accomplish working with her colleagues at the academy before she exits the city. And so that's going to take a pretty good amount of time.
Perfect. Councilmember Williams?
Could we review our ordinance on the people standing on medians with their signs?
Yes, ma'am.
Right now, I understand that they have to be warned, and then you have to come back a second time. Well, they all caught on to that, and the officers are saying how difficult it is to ever ticket anybody. So if we could look at how we could perhaps change that, I think it would be beneficial for the community.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Councilwoman Williams, it is quite a challenge because the officer that gives the warning may not be the next officer that sees the person, and now you're sort of starting back over. So it is an issue.
Same thing's true with jaywalking,
Yes. Yes.
which ties into pedestrian safety.
Right.
Yes.
So could we review that too, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Alrighty, any other future agenda items? With that, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you so much.